Hey everyone, welcome to Daily News Analysis. Today is March 28th, and let's look at some of the important news of today. The first news is regarding Bilkis Bano case. So far, all of us must be aware of this Bilkis Bano case, the woman who was gang raped by 11 men and her family members were killed back in 2002 Gujarat riots. The ones that were given a life imprisonment, they were prematurely released. So Supreme Court has issued notice to Gujarat and to center in this case. So Supreme Court will focus primarily on the question of Gujarat's jurisdiction to prematurely release 11 men who were sentenced to life for the gang rape of Bilkis Bano and the murder of her family members during the 2002 riots. A bench of Justice K.M. Joseph and B.V. Nagarthana wondered whether the state followed uniform standards while granting early remission to the 11 men when murder convicts tend to otherwise languish in prison for years. So the court was hearing a writ petition separately filed by Ms. Bilkis Bano and others, including CPI-M leader Subhashini Ali and Trinamool Congress leader Mahua Mitra. The court issued formal notice to Gujarat, the union government, and the released convict. It listed the case for hearing on 18th of April. One more, for as far as convicts are concerned, the counsel for one of the convicts, Advocate Rishi Malhotra, said the other petitioners were third parties who had no locus standi in the case. However, the court had earlier made it clear that the question of locus standi of the third party did not arise anymore, as Ms. Banu herself had approached the court during the release, against the release. Now, please understand the meaning of the word locus standi. Locus standi means by what authority, by what interest are you standing in the court. So locus standi, do you have locus standi? Do you have the right to stand in the court of law and ask for the right? So that is what the convict side is saying, that they do not, the third party, they are third parties, they do not have locus standi. But the Supreme Court is saying that no, it's not about the locus standi, because Bilkis Bano herself has filed the petition against the release of the convicts. Supreme Court has said that borrowers should be heard before accounts are classified as fraud, because once the account is classified as fraud, it's like a civil death. The Supreme Court has held that borrowers must be given an opportunity to be heard before their accounts are classified as fraud. And there is also a principle of natural justice, audi alteram partem. Audi alteram partem means hear the other side. So until and unless you do not hear the other side, you cannot pass a verdict from one side. So if there is a borrower and his account has to be freezed, first he should be listened. What is the issue? What is the matter? Before, without listening, you cannot classify his account as fraud, because that has very dire consequences for the borrower. So a bench led by Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, said the civil consequences of an account being declared as fraud under the Reserve Bank of India, frauds classification and reporting by commercial banks and select financial institutions, Directions 2016, or the Central Bank's Master Directions on Fraud, amount to civil death to borrowers. The principle of natural justice, audi alteram partem, which means hear the other side, demands that borrowers should be given a chance to be heard first. Since the classification of an account as fraud entails serious civil consequences for the borrower, the directions must be construed reasonably by reading them into the requirement of observing the principles of natural justice. Supreme Court has freed a man on death row as he was a minor at the time of crime. The crime was committed in 1994 and he had already spent 28 years in prison, and now he was freed when it was proved that at the time of commission of crime he was a juvenile. So the Supreme Court has released a death row convict who spent more than 28 years in prison for the gruesome murder of 5 women and 2 children, on realizing that he was just over 12 years old at the time of the crime in 1994. So this bench was led by Justice Aniruddha Bose. It relied on the date of birth in the man's school certificate to find his age. Four other documents which surfaced at various stages of trial, appeals, and review of the case over the years variously showed his age between 12 and 22. There was even an unresolved confusion over the man's name. Even the name was not clear. What is the name of this person? So his age at the time of commission of offence was 12 years and 6 months. Thus, he was a child juvenile on the date of commission of the offence for which he has been convicted, Justice Bose observed, following his appeal for release on the grounds of juvenility. Also, Supreme Court will hear a plea against Agnipath scheme. So, Supreme Court has agreed to hear a plea challenging a Delhi High Court order that upheld the centre's Agnipath scheme for recruitment into the armed forces. High Court has used ChatGPT's response on bail plea. However, this artificial intelligence reference was intended to present a broader picture on bail jurisprudence where cruelty is a factor. So, as the usage of, as you know, that ChatGPT has turned out to be a very popular, very effective, very useful artificial intelligence tool that everyone is using for several purposes. So, the High Court also has used ChatGPT's response on bail plea. So, the court, however, made it clear that the AI response is the matter only intended to present a broader picture on bail jurisprudence where cruelty is a factor. Justice Anup Chitkara in the order made it abundantly clear that any reference to ChatGPT and any observation made is neither an expression of opinion on the merits of the case nor shall the trial court advert to these comments. Delhi government has rescued over 200 child laborers so far this year, High Court was told. So the High Court has told that the Delhi government has so far over 200 children who were forced into labor. The response came while hearing a plea by Bachpan Bachao Andolan. In Rajasthan, protest is going on by the doctors. There is this right to health bill. Under this bill gives right to every resident of the state to emergency treatment care without prepayment of requisite fee or charges to any health institution. Now, private doctors are apprehensive that the government is interfering with their way of working, so they have uh, come out in the streets protesting that and they are demanding that this bill should be rolled back. So, private hospitals and nursing homes across the state have been closed for several days because of doctors' strike. Medicos insist that the discussion would be possible only after the bill is withdrawn. So the deadlock over the right to health bill passed by the Rajasthan Assembly last week continued on Monday with the private hospitals demanding its immediate rollback. Private doctors protesting against the bill stepped out their agitation and took out a massive rally in Jaipur in a show of strength. As you can see in the picture also there are so many doctors present. Under pressure from protesters, this is an international news. Netanyahu will delay judicial overhaul. So, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu he announced a delay in his judicial overhaul because there have been many protests against that, and he says that he wanted to give some time to seek a compromise over the contentious package with his political opponents. When there is an opportunity to avoid civil war through dialogue, I, as Prime Minister, am taking a timeout for dialogue. This is what he said. The centerpiece of the overhaul is a law that would give the governing coalition the final say over all judicial appointments. That is why there are protests. The government also seeks to pass laws that would grant Parliament the authority to overturn Supreme Court decisions and limit judicial review of laws. So that is why they are thinking that government is trying to overtake judiciary. That's why there are protests for this judicial overhaul. Hamza Yusuf has said to become the Scotland's youngest First Minister. So Hamza Yusuf, it won the race to become Scotland's new leader, its youngest and first from a minority ethnic background. He is charged with reviving a faltering independence movement after Nicola Sturgeon's long tenure. He is 37 years of age and he is said to be sworn in as First Minister on Wednesday. Myanmar Janta government sees crackdown will continue and he makes promises for the polls. So Myanmar's Janta chief, flanked by tanks and missile launches, vowed not to let up in a crackdown on opponents and said elections would be held weeks after the military conceded it did not control enough territory to allow a vote. He was addressing service members attending the annual Armed Forces Day parade. That's all for right now. Thank you so much. See you in the next session with more set of news. Till then, have a good day.